In no doubt, those that have participated in this violence will face the full force of the law. The police will be making arrests, individuals will be held on remand, charges will follow, and convictions will follow. I guarantee you will regret taking part in this disorder, whether directly or those whipping up this action online and then running away themselves. This is not protest. It is organised, violent thuggery, and it has no place on our streets or online. And all right-minded people should be condemning this sort of violence. People in this country have a right to be safe, and yet we've seen Muslim communities targeted, attacks on mosques, other minority communities singled out, Nazi salutes in the street, attacks on the police, wanton violence alongside racist rhetoric. So no, I won't shy away from calling it what it is: far-right thuggery.
That beta male is the UK Prime Minister, and he's going after his own people by gaslighting them into thinking that far-right activists and protesters are the ones causing all the issues in the UK currently. Of course, ignoring the facts and the fact that the violent crimes in the UK are really being done by, obviously, migrants and people who don't belong there in the first place. But he won't tell you that, of course. Take a look at this video. This is a far-right group. I mean, I was going to joke about it, but it's not. It's a group of Muslim men beating up a white man in the streets of the UK. There's plenty of these videos circulating all over the internet. But of course, the media in the UK and their politicians won't tell you about this, of course. I mean, look at that, barbaric. And they don't stop. They're tackling all these people down to the floor, beating them over the heads. They have swords, they have knives, they have machetes. Folks, the media is pretending like this isn't actually happening. And Sky News was forced to actually have to kind of take themselves off air because, well, it was so obvious that the individuals who were behind one of their reporters was obviously carrying several weapons. And it happened again during multiple Sky News reports.
Community leaders have been speaking to the police as well because...
Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Right, I think, apologies for the language you're hearing, but a sense of anger, I think you can there.
Yeah, Katie, I think Becky, I apologise. We need to leave you there and
look very pleased about it whilst they did it. Then there was this, as I say, clash between protesters and the police, and that is when they then ran off across the park here. A big group ran off, looking for trouble, it looked like, to us. So we're just going to step away now from this group behind us. But a lot of disorder here, a lot of...
I appreciate the pivot and not actually reporting on the actual crimes that are being committed right in front of her, of course. Joining me to discuss, a very busy man. Let's welcome into the show, independent journalist Tommy Robinson. Tommy, thank you for joining me. I'm so excited that you're here. I know, Tommy, you've been extremely busy. According to reports, you're on the run, but you're also leading your foot soldiers by, attending a 5-star resort, according to reports. So I'm glad you were able to set aside some time to talk to us. This is actual journalism that's going on right now. Thanks to the Daily Mail for doing it. But Tommy, your reaction to all of this, because they're sitting here pretending like you're leading all these efforts throughout the UK right now, even though you're on vacation.
Not just on vacation. Every single video that I've made about what's going on in the UK, I call for no violence. I tell people not to commit criminal damage, not to attack police officers in every single video. Now, what we've witnessed since this news article come and track down where I am with my family. They comment that I'm with my children, and then they give the exact location of where I am. This is purposely done to endanger my family at a time when tensions are the highest I can ever remember them being in the UK. Yeah, the British public have had enough. Then the media and the government have gaslit the public into believing all of these crimes and all of these riots are by the English Defence League. Breanna, the English Defence League hasn't existed for a decade. So a run back into the sequence of events. There was Hamas took over our streets since October the 7th every Saturday. The public watched as the police failed to deal with calls of jihad, violence on the streets. The police literally run away. Then we had Romanians had two of their children took off them in Harehill in Leeds. Yeah, so this is the build up to the tensions. Two of their children taken off them because I don't believe they're in the home. The son's suffered a fractured skull, and we have a system in the UK where they protect the kids. When they protected the kids, the Romanians and the Muslims, the Romanian gypsies and the Muslims, come out and rioted against the police. They burned buses, they burned police cars. Once again, the police are seen running away. Yeah, no arrests are made. They literally leg it. They don't come back. They're left to riot. So we watched that. Then there's an incident in Manchester Airport that a police officer kicks a Muslim on the floor when he's on the floor and kicks his head. Yeah. From that, thousands of Muslims bombard the police station. They're on the TV across the country. They're on TV shows threatening to riot. They're going to riot unless the Muslim men who have been arrested are released. They release the Muslim prisoners, the police do, and then they put their own officer under criminal investigation. Now, the day after they do this, the actual video of what happened prior to him getting kicked in the head by the police officer is released. What we see is that these Muslims violently attacked 3 police officers, punching them from behind, breaking a police officer's nose, yeah? But the police let them go. The police said there was insufficient evidence. So the public have then seen there was evidence, just like the children should have been taken. Now, in Harehills, when the Romanians and the Muslims were rioting, they gave the police till 10 o'clock at night. They made a statement saying these are going to be the worst riots. People will talk of these riots in 100 years. At 9 p.m, the police give the children back. Yeah. So literally, the message has been sent to the British public. If you're angry, then violence and threats and disorder get you what you want. So all of this is going on. People are watching. When the English come out to protest, they're attacked with police horses, police dogs and riot shields. You don't see that for minority groups. So there's a level of two-tier policing which has angered and frustrated this country. But the other points they're not making, when we're going on to then, when it turned into violence, there was three young girls, a son of Rwandan migrants, went into a school, went into a dance class, yeah, a Taylor Swift dance class. So I've got 2 daughters, so I can picture exactly what this is: little dance classes full of innocent, beautiful little children who have gone there to celebrate and dance together. There's a class full of them. He's gone in, he's grabbed the first one by the hair, stabbing her in the face. He's gone on to stab 11 children, murdered 3 of them, butchered them, yeah? Butchered 2 adults and until he was detained. So that's happened. And then the police are saying, when people are waiting for the details, because 3 days before this as well, a soldier wearing full uniform, this didn't even really make our news, a soldier wearing full uniform has walked out of his house at an army barracks, and a black migrant who's been in the country 6 months gets off of a moped, runs over and butchers him, yeah? Stabs him all over his body, his neck, everywhere. The soldier's wife comes out of the house and tries pulling him off. The migrant didn't stab anyone else, just attacked the soldier in military uniform. And 3 days before, that didn't really make our news, and we were told there was a mental health episode at an army barracks, yeah? The mental health episode is probably an act of jihad that they're covering up. So when the school, then this happens at the school. Now, in amongst all this, we've seen rapes across the country. In the same week, 2 Somalians battered to death a 68-year-old grandmother who was walking her dog. Yeah, all these things have happened in the same week. So then the British public from the local area of Southport, where the children have been stabbed where the young girls have been stabbed. Now, I spoke to one of the uncles there. So his niece had been stabbed in the face, ruined her face forever, had her bicep taken off. So just so you can understand the tensions in a local community, one man I spoke to, that happened to his niece. On the other side of his family, it was his goddaughter had been murdered, stabbed 7 times. So obviously everyone is furious. And then there's the question of, is this a migrant? What was the motive for him doing it? And the police wouldn't come out and say. They come out within an hour and said it's not terrorism. How could they possibly know within an hour it's not terrorism? And so any viewers understand. You can, and Google this case. In 2016, put in Russell Square attack, yeah? What it will bring up, a Muslim went into a mosque in London, and he said, I want to kill non-Muslims. I'm going to kill non-Muslims. Rather than ring the police, they sat around and they prayed for him, yeah? He then left the mosque. He went into Russell Square screaming Allah Akbar. He stabbed 7 people, murdering an American tourist. What did the police and government tell us? It was a mental health episode. No, he wasn't charged with terrorism. Okay? So that's one case. An 88-year-old grandmother was in her garden in London and she was beheaded while the man was shouting Allah Akbar. What did the police and government tell us? It was a mental health episode. So we don't trust any work I've done. We don't trust what the police and government said. So the reason we can't trust them or the media was the reason that people were out on the streets angry, wanting to know what's gone on, and then they clashed with the police. Now, in the first evening, I was oblivious to this, yeah? I hadn't even commented on it, really. When they clashed with the police, straight away statements come out from our government and the police saying it was the English Defence League. Now, for me, straight away, it worried me because there's been no English Defence League for a decade. There is no group. There's no such group, yeah? Why are they blaming the English Defence League? I was the English Defence League, yeah? Now, a week before this, we held the biggest patriotic rally Britain's ever seen. Yeah. 100,000 patriots in London in a totally peaceful celebration of our culture, of our identity in Trafalgar Square, where we sent a powerful message to the establishment that enough is enough. Our one before that was 30,000 people. This was 100,000. Next one, 250,000. A revolution is brewing in Great Britain, and it terrified them. So as soon as this attack happened, English Defence League. And I'm thinking, how is it? There is no English Defence League. The next day, so there was a riot by locals. And rather than tell the British public the truth, the entire local community are furious with the failures of police and government, with open border immigration. We feel like aliens in our own towns and cities. Our culture's disappearing, and men have been invited. So this sparked a riot. Then the other riots started sparking across the country. And no one wants to talk about where these riots are. Last night, a migrant hotel was set fire in Tamworth. Well, a migrant called Mohammed from that hotel raped a local woman. Yeah, that's why people are angry. They don't want to talk about, there was a riot in Hull where the local community come out, and it's not the EDL. They keep saying it's a far-right EDL. In Hull, a migrant, again, a refugee, come out of the hotel, and he went and stabbed to death a British man while shouting it was for Palestine. Yeah. So in each of these areas where people are, Rotherham yesterday afternoon, hundreds ransacked a migrant hotel and set fire to it there as well. So this is going on across the country. But in Rotherham, the migrants have been harassing 12-year-old children. There's a lot of resentment, a lot of anger. It's built up over years. It's built up over decades. And what you're seeing now is a total failure by the government to deal with it. And rather than deal with it, they're currently blaming me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we actually just had Sammy Woodhouse on the program, who detailed what was taking place at a lot of those migrant shelters or the hotels as well just yesterday. And rightfully so, people have a reason to be upset because your own government has just allowed all these people to pour in. They're paying all this funding through their, your taxpayer money, obviously, and they're allowing this to happen. But again, so many little girls, and you've been covering it for quite some time now, have been raped by these men, and nobody wants to intervene. Nobody wants to step in because they're all afraid, because truthfully, they know that those who are native are fine, they're not violent, but those who are just being imported now are the ones who are violent and they have to be fearful of. But Tommy, like you mentioned, you did have that rally just a few days ago, and right after that rally, you were arrested and detained under the Terror Act. So can you explain to our audience what took place?
So 1 week ago, I created a film 3 years ago. The film absolutely exposes the corruption of the judiciary. They took me through the courts, and this film is far bigger than Tommy Robinson. Our courts have been weaponised to use against dissident voices, okay? It's happened to me. It's happened to Katie Hopkins in the UK, Alex Jones for £1 billion, Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, everyone knows it. What this film does is categorically prove, with evidence of covert recordings, how they operate, who's involved. And I made that film, and 3 years ago, they gave me an injunction preventing me from ever screening it. And I failed myself as an activist, and I failed myself as a journalist because I was scared of the outcome. They told me I'll get 2 years in prison if anyone ever watches that film. That's what they told me. Now, prison for me, our prisons are ISIS training camps. So prison is possible death. If not, it's 2 years of solitary confinement. And I've got a family. So I didn't play the film. Now, last Saturday, in front of 100,000 people, and with nearly 1 million watching online, I decided to premiere that film and send a message to the establishment that we don't agree to be gagged. And in fact, we are exposing you. Now, that film currently, I think, is on 33 million views. And that is why. So the next day, I went to Folkestone Dock and I was detained under terrorism legislation. Now, when I went in, they hand me Article 7, I believe. They hand me the paperwork, say we can detain you for 6 hours. Now, the purpose of this legislation, if they have someone that they know has knowledge of a terrorist attack that's being planned, then under this legislation, you have no right to remain silent, and you have to answer every question they ask you, or you break the terrorism legislation. You're charged with terrorism. So you have to answer every question, and you have to give them your PIN codes. You can't say no. So when they say give us the PIN code to your phone, you have to give them it. Yeah. So then they pull me in, but what it says is this is for people they believe are in the preparation of acts of terrorism. So they read this legislation out and said, we don't actually believe you are, but under this legislation, we can now detain you for 6 hours, question you, and they took my phone and they searched my car for any electronic devices, etc. Then they sat me down for 6 hours and grilled me on my activities that are legal and legitimate, lawful, political activities. And I don't have a right to remain silent. So they're asking me who I'm working with, what my next plans are, what am I going to do? What do I believe I can do to stop the Great Replacement, was one of their questions. What's my view on the two-state solution for Palestine? Why do I stand with Israel? These are the questions they're asking me. I'm sitting there, and they ask, and I don't have a right to remain silent. The first question they actually asked me is, what's your view on the United Kingdom? So I said, it's a totalitarian shithole. And they said, do you care to explain that to us? I said, you've just arrested me under terrorism legislation that you know I'm not involved in, so you can question me without a right to remain silent and seize my phone and go through it. That's a totalitarian shithole. You've got no evidence and you've got no crime, but here you are looking for one. So then they asked me for the PIN code on my phone, at which point I explained to them, they know I'm a journalist. So my sources of information, you have no right to see them or hear them. Now, so people understand, the girl you just had on your show, Sammy Woodhouse, who's a colleague of mine now, she's one of the survivors from the grooming scandal in Rotherham, where 1,400, I don't know if you knew that. That's Sammy's one of the survivors from those gangs. 1,400 children were raped. She was one of them, by Pakistani Muslim gangs. Now, in that town, the police discarded evidence and hid evidence, okay? They also done it in Telford. Corrupt police officers in Rochdale, in Rotherham, in Manchester were cooperating with the gangs. So I explained to the police officer, I've done a 5-part series where I've exposed corrupt police officers. I'm currently working on a 6th series where I'm going to expose paedophile politicians. You're not having access to my phone. I don't trust you. I don't trust what you'll do with the data that goes on that phone, what system you're going to put it on, and who can gain access to that. So I am duty bound as a journalist, and the promises I've made to my sources of information, that you ain't having access to it. So no, I'm not going to give you my PIN code. At which point I was arrested. I was then arrested to be charged. I was then taken to another police station where I was interviewed under caution. So then I have a right to remain silent. But I was interviewed about breaking terrorist legislation. Because, as a journalist, I didn't want them going through my phone. I don't want them reading my source of information. I've also got legal, in the UK, we call it legal and privileged information. I've got ongoing court cases where I now face 2 years in prison. I've got all my private discussions with my lawyers in my preparation for those cases on my phone. They don't have a right to go through that. So anyway, so they took me there to charge me. They told me I'm being charged. By this point, it's gone out online. I think it was 7 million views that I've been arrested under terrorism legislation. Protests have started outside Downing Street. So from definitely charging me, because I'd already been told I'm getting charged, they then bailed me. So I'm now bailed till October 25th for breaching terrorism legislation. They let me go. When they let me go, I drove straight to Europe, where I am now, where I travelled to meet my children. I had my children for 2 weeks. So then all the headlines come out. I fled the country. I was supposed to be in court, okay? No one has handed me legal documents to say I'm in court. The process is, for contempt proceedings, which they're prosecuting me under. So contempt proceedings, you can get 2 years in prison, no jury. So I'm stitched up. I'm done anyway. Yeah, I'm going to jail. So they haven't served me the papers. Do you know how I found out I was in court? Through a far left extremist organisation. They're the ones that put out my court date and time. How do they know I'm in court before I do, if there's not a cooperation of the judiciary with the far left extremist organisations? I've already done an expose documentary on how they operate together. So now, yes, I am currently, a judge has issued a warrant for my arrest to say I need to be arrested and brought to court. The court date given is the 25th of October, where I face imprisonment for 2 years for making a film. No one's questioning the legitimacy of any of the information or stuff that's in the film. The problem is that the public have seen the film, which is what I keep trying to stress. This isn't about silencing me. This has been about deceiving you the whole time. They want to lie to the public. They want to deceive them. They want to push whatever the narrative they want. And unfortunately, citizen journalists like ourselves, we're uncontrollable for them. Now, they managed to control us for 5 years. For 5 years, I was censored, deleted. Right now, this is the scary thing. I've just translated a Belgium newspaper, which clearly states that I am the instigator of all these riots. So in the build up to the riots that you're witnessing from locals in towns and cities that the government have blamed on the EDL, yesterday, the Daily Mail newspaper ran a story saying that I have instigated these riots, okay, from my sun lounger on holiday. Today, I watched every British morning breakfast channel, every news channel. It's now being spoken about as a matter of fact, and there's calls for me to be charged with terrorism, that I have instigated this violence, even though every bit of evidence goes totally against that. I called for peace, I called for calm, no violence. None of that matters. You cannot search my name currently on TikTok, Instagram. I'm blocked from all of them. They're now going after Elon Musk and they're going after X. They're using this and the trouble in the UK as justification for a power grab to control the internet. They already control all the big tech, but now they want to control totally. They want rid of my voice, whether it be through prison or through censorship, or through both. So I've watched it. I've watched the video you just showed of Keir Starmer. He's basically addressing me. And I'm thinking, I haven't broken any law. And he doesn't just talk about bringing people to justice who commit criminality. Those who whipped it up online. What does whip it up online mean? What showed the truth of what the migrants are doing? Showed the reality of the migrants rioting and beating people. There is not one news outlet. And if it wasn't for X, the videos of gangs of Muslims screaming Allah Akbar, violently attacking people with hammers, swords, bats, no one would have seen. Yeah. They would have total control. So I'm sitting here. Am I panicked? Yeah. Worried? Yeah. I face however many years in jail for reporting. And they are basically whipping up the public with a narrative that I've instigated all these mass riots. So Muslims want to kill me. They wanted to kill me anyway. But the tensions are higher than they've ever been because any of the trouble that's happening on the streets now has been landed on my lap. It's not my problem. It's not my fault. I keep saying, I didn't make the Somalians kill the woman. I didn't go in and stab any children. I didn't open the borders. In fact, I want them closed. I didn't decide to flood every hotel in every town and city with hostile, violent rapists. You did. This is government failure. It's not my failure. It's your failure. It's not on my lap. It's on yours.
Yeah. Well, Tommy, I think that's the key part in all of this. And I'm glad you brought up the whole X point because I saw last night it was a very well orchestrated attempt to push you off of X. So all of these talking heads for news outlets over in the UK were sitting here and saying that you're a danger and that you need to be removed and we're trying to tag Elon Musk. But again, it's not that you're a danger. It's the fact that they don't want you arming the people within your country with the actual facts because they're being actively suppressed. You know, you brought up the Rwandan, the child of the Rwandan migrants who murdered those 3 innocent girls. That piece of information was widely suppressed. I had to dig to find out who this individual even was. And they even after we found out about it, because BBC actually surprisingly did put out that information, Daily Mail actually ran his as a child photo, not the fact that he's 17 years old, but they ran his photo as a child. And again, it's outrageous because we wouldn't know what this guy looks like if it wasn't for Twitter, because Twitter was the one who was pushing out these images.
And they called him a choir boy. And the thing is, you say you had to dig for that. As I said, I stopped people after the soldier was savagely stabbed in an attempted murder in his uniform on an army barracks by a migrant. No one even knows it happened. No one even knows it happened. The majority of the public do not even know it's happened. Now, the documentary I've made shows the lengths they go to cover things up. People are fed up. This country's at breaking point. Me saying that is not instigating violence. I'm not encouraging violence. What I'm trying to explain is why people are so angry. Our wives and our daughters are no longer safe. You've taken away the freedom and the safety of our women. The one thing we hold dearest to us, our children and our daughters, and you have brought in hostile, alien, aggressive men who are harassing them in every town and city up and down this country. And in the UK, I don't know how bad it is in America in a minute, people can't get dentist appointments. They're pulling their own teeth out. You cannot see a doctor, but yet every bit of healthcare is given to the migrants. Old age pensioners are worried about turning their heating on because they can't afford it. And the migrants are in 4-star hotels. They've paid nothing into the system. They've come through 16 safe countries. They're on their own. They're young, military-age males. There's no women and children. This is not, it's an invasion that we're then expected to pay for and keep our mouth shut when they play up. When they play up, when they abuse and when they're violent, and that's why they're unhappy with me, because I show people the reality of the problems of open border migration. It's all I've ever done. This is the problems you get with Islam. I tell the truth about it, and they can't have the truth told, because the truth questions their policies and exposes the failures of their policies. But they're quite happy. What you're seeing now, you see all these gangs, they're doing it now. There's videos of them now attacking cars right now as we're talking in Birmingham. Hundreds and hundreds of them on our TV, on the news, with swords. Where are the police? The police are hiding. Where are the police? If these were white men, the police would be there with their dogs, horses, riot shields, and pepper spray. We are treated totally different. That can only go on for so long before there's a massive backlash by the British population. We saw a backlash, and do you know what? The Keir Starmer's come out in his statement. He hasn't condemned both sides. He's just said, to the Muslim community, we will protect you. You will protect the Muslim community. Can I tell you how many Muslim women have been raped by non-Muslim men in the UK? None. Go and find me a case. Go and find me a case. Because 1,000 English children just in Telford. There's only a 1.7% Muslim population in Telford. Just in Telford, 1,000 English children have been raped by Muslims. In Rotherham, 1,400. In every town and city, just Google migrant asylum seeker rape, and you'll find hundreds. Our women are being raped. And when we try and talk out, he tried to portray the entire British public as far right. None of these people are there ideologically with far right views. They're concerned parents, and you've sent your police force in to crush them. There's videos of women getting thrown on the floor, of parents getting abused, of old age pensioners getting beaten by the police. There's not one video of the police attacking Muslims. They're actually just videos of them running away from them. Look at him. Just look at him. What a cuck.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe him, because while he gave this press conference, it was very obvious that he looked uncomfortable too. But ultimately, they don't believe the words that they're saying. They're just all afraid, and they wish they could be as brazen as you, Tommy, but unfortunately they can't, because they're just gutless at this point. And I want to remind our audience, first off, at home right now, if they do get their way, Tommy, and do lock you up, I think the people in the UK need to understand that there needs to be more of you that pop up. There needs to be more citizen journalists popping up, and there needs to be 10 more, so that they can't keep locking people up and kind of suppressing it that way. They need to fear that.
I keep saying Tommy Robinson has become a name about resistance, not about me. It's and I'd say they've probably created 1,000 Tommy Robinsons in the last 4 days. Our country is at boiling point. People have had enough, and they're not backing down. They come out with, we're going to crush you, we're going to crush you. The next day, 3 hotels were ransacked by thousands of men. It's like, no, you pushed the people too far. And when I first done my first ever demonstration in 2009, we went and the police attacked us on horses with batons. And then they tried to arrest me, and they tried to give us bail conditions. They tried all these same tactics. Did it work? No. Our 200 people from our first demonstration turned into 1,000 men wearing balaclavas. That's when people are, and the country's at breaking point. The issues I spoke about for 15 years, no one wanted to listen to. Now everyone's ready. Everyone's listening. Everyone can see the change. Everyone can see the future of their country is at risk and in danger.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And folks, I wanted to point you to the reason why they're trying to silence Tommy. It's through his film. So head over to his X page. We've got that link in the description of this interview, and make sure you give it a look because they don't want you to see this, which means you have to see this. Tommy, thank you for everything that you do. We always appreciate it.
Thank you, Breanna. Cheers.
There's a sale going on right now, and I want to let you in on it. It's over at, you guessed it, mypillow.com. Mike Liddell has his $25 extravaganza going on right now, and you're not going to want to miss out. Now, to secure those great savings, you're going to want to use promo code BREE. That's going to get you the best deals available right now. So make sure you use promo code BREE, that's BRE, to secure those savings. So many great items are on sale right now, like his bed sheets, his towels, his sandals, his slippers, and so much more. And even my dog's favorite, those dog beds, those are always a top seller. So make sure you head on over to mypillow.com. Take a look around. There's so much going on right now. He's even got his mattress pads on sale that you guys at home love so much. So head over to mypillow.com. Use promo code BREE, that's promo code BRE, to save up to 66% off.